Hello and welcome to another step-by-step how to tie tutorial video. This is the Minnesota Crawdad. This is a fun pattern to fish. It's a big monster 1/0 hook. This is a Mustad 32756 hook. Going to go through all the components to this. The thread that I am using is a Danvilles 210 nylon, kind of a tannish with a little bit of a shimmer onto it. For the weight of the fly, I'm using a heavy-duty lead wire. I am using some heavy-duty copper wire. For the underbody, I am using this stuff called Glit Eyelash. This is in a bold copper. This is how I get that underbody. The upper body is streamer hair in the color of burnt orange. Nice long streamer hair. The eyes are some of this 25-pound monofilament, and the front claw pinchers are a mix between some brown portion of the bucktail and some pretty bird. I believe this is a pheasant or partridge. Anyways, whatever feather you want to use for the top portion of this fly, anything will really work as long as the shape is there. The first thing that I'm going to do is melt the plastic for the eyes. And for that, I'm just going to use a little bit of heat. And get two little bubbles on the end. There we go. We can extinguish the flame for safety purposes. And we do this first to give the give this marker a chance to dry. I'm using a Pro marker. This is an alcohol based. And I'll just get in here and color the whole thing black. You could leave it clear, you could color it brown, color it red, whatever color you want to match it to. But this stuff really works good. Easy to apply. I'm using the little fly tool here to just kind of help hold that mono. And we'll let that set off to the side and dry for a little bit. And we shall remove the Minnesota Crawdad. And we will get this big old monster hook in here. This is a 1/0 hook. So we are not messing around with this at all. First things first, like all good flies, they begin but with a single wrap of thread. We can continue to secure that down. And I'm going to add some lead wire for weight. And I'm going to apply this to the sides of the shank of the hook. So a couple of wraps to get things started. We'll line it up on the side and work it all the way back. The majority of the shank, almost to the tip of the hook. Okay, gonna give that the old helicopter, break that off. That lead is nice and soft. It's easy to do with the lead. I don't like to do that with the other wires, especially on the finished end, final end of a product. Okay, we'll get the far side tied in. Sometimes you gotta work it up a little bit just to get it to stay initially, and once you get a good few tight wraps on it, and back to the tip. There we go. Take the thread to the front, make sure that lays nice and flat on either side of the shank of the hook. We'll take our kind of beefy copper wire. Not exactly sure on what size diameter this is. This was taken from a electronics component. Free material is free material, and I wanted a heavier gauge wire on this. Alright, we'll set that off to the side. Take our thread back up to the front. A lot of back and forth on this. We'll take this Glit Eyelash copper. Get this on there. Shorten that down to length a little bit. A couple of turns to lock it down, and you can take all the crazy material and fold it up and back. Lock it all down nice and tight. We'll be palmering this on here in a little bit. Excellent. Alright, we're going to keep our thread parked up at the front, or at the bend of the hook, and I'm going to take two little pieces of, right here on this brown portion of the bucktail. Just kind of working my way up there. This is going to be act as a support for that feather we'll use for the claw. Strip your junk out. Get those down fibers, down feathers, down fur out, under fur. We'll run this through the stacker real quick, just to even up the tips a little bit. Not too concerned about how even they are, but we'll get most of the meat and potatoes there on the end. Alright, proportion wise, I want to go about the length of the hook. Okay, I'm going to start on the far side, and this is going to go on either side of that bend of that hook. So a couple nice good locking wraps, and I'm kind of encouraging it off to the side and up a little bit. We'll wrap this in. And we'll get a small taper there. So this is off to the side. Take our thread back up to the front. It's funny because the front is the back and the back is the front on a crawdad. So I keep referring to the front as the head of the crawdad, not necessarily the eye of the hook. So I apologize if I confuse anybody out there. Do the near side now. Small clump of bucktail. Clean that off. Once again, we're going to run that through the stacker real quick, just to even things up a little bit. Alright, once again, I'm going for about the length of the hook. Need to get this out of the way, and let's get this out of the way. There we go. Couple tight locking wraps. And it's alright if it wants to go to a little bit to the side. It doesn't have to be on top. Give it a nice tapered trim. And there we go. Take your thread to the bend. We'll tie in our eyes now. These should be nice and dry. So we'll go ahead and just trim them into two. And you just want to eyeball your eye. You want it to, when it's done getting tied in, you You want it to sit kind of up and off to the side just a little bit. So these will crisscross. Just tie one in at a time. We'll get that one in like so. Okay, once your eyes are secured, you can finish doing the claws up front. You just want to be able to get a nice tight bind. Alright, once again, this is about the length of the hook. Go ahead and we're going to strip those fibers back. That's going to be one side. Clean the rest of that off. We'll prepare the other one. So again, we're going for about the length of the hook. We'll tie this in on this side. Be mindful of how you have it oriented. And we'll just let that stem go where it wants. Trim that off. And we'll do the far side. We'll do the same. One's a little bit bigger than the other on this one, but that's alright. Alright, we'll just kind of go back and forth here a couple times, really get it locked down nice and tight. You don't want your claws to fall off. Okay, we'll park our thread towards the eye of the hook. I'll protect the wire. And the first thing we're going to do is palmer on our lower body material. This is that Glit eyelash. We'll do our best to keep the fibers from getting trapped underneath the next wrap, so I can kind of aim all this off of towards the front by just spinning it. These fibers more or less come off in one direction. So nice, good touching wraps, covering that whole body. Want nice, good fill in there. It's a fun material to work with. I think it really adds a lot of sparkle. I mean, it's kind of like coming up with a flash dubbing loop, and it really holds together well. Okay, we'll lock this off. It can be kind of tricky working with that 90-degree bend on that hook. Sometimes your thread can slip and pop up. Do some wraps, lock that down. And I have a little brush here that I'll use to kind of tease and make sure I get all these fibers unstuck. Alright, now we can go ahead and just start pulling them down. Clear them from the face, from the top. And I'm going to come in here with my scissors and just kind of trim off some of these wild ones on the top side. All right, good enough. Okay, we're going to go with the burnt orange streamer hair. Just going to take a small clump of that. And just like everything else, there's always going to be some residual fuzz in there somewhere. So I want to make sure you clean that out nice and good. Alright, we can tie this in. I tie in the tips because what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this towards that front bend. And then I run it back. So this will get my initial start. I'll do one wrap up here, and I will fold this back over itself. I'm splitting the hook and I'm splitting the eye. There we go. Couple locking wraps. Alright, now we can continue to do our counter wraps. And we'll lock this all the way down, securing the streamer hair on top. Use your bodkin, keep all these wild fibers from intruding onto the top. Nice big open wrap on this copper wire. And if you do get a fiber from the bottom stuck in there on top, we can easily come in with this bodkin and clean everything out. Okay, wrap your copper wire all the way up towards the eye. Secure that. Trim that off with the flush cutters. And this will even trim out. Excellent. All right, now for the back front flipper fins. Just gonna go ahead and prepare 2 feathers, kind of like how I did up front. We'll tie one in on this side of that bend. And we'll tie in another one on the other side. You want to make sure they're oriented in a proper direction. Trim off the stems. And we'll get our strays at least pulled down and off to the side. We'll finish the body with some UV clear. This is thin. I do not have the thick. I wish I did. But we'll make this work. Just got to be quick with it before it completely absorbs and gets into that streamer hair too thin. But I think this does a good job securing and sealing that burnt orange streamer hair. Give it a quick zap. Alright, and then before I finish everything off, I'm just going to come in with a little bit of dubbing. This is a ice trout dubbing. I believe it is rusty brown. Okay, and I'm going to come up here, right up to that bend, and that's where I will do my whip finish. That way I can get a nice solid piece of hook to finish that off on. And I'm just going to come in with a little drop of UV there on the stem and fill in any spots along the side. Beautiful. Almost done with this. Hit it one more time with the torch. And the final step is a little bit of a haircut on the bottom. I want things to be a little bit shorter in the back and longer in the front. Just going after the strays now. Here we go. I'll give it a full tweak and bend, make sure everything's where it needs to be. And that, my friends, is what I call the Minnesota Crawdad. That one's just a little more twisted than I would like, but it'll fish. I think that'll definitely wake them up. Alright guys, thank you for tuning in. Happy tying, and definitely with this one, tight lines. Thank you for tuning in.